Fine.
Hello YouTube, we are here today at Drift Week at Englishtown. We just finished the LZ party. The LZ party was amazing, and I thought because we had another drift event organizer here, Dave Egan from Drift Games and Drift Masters, we would talk and look at the logistics of hosting a drift event. This is just like a normal drift event, isn't it? You ship in every single person's tires by the thousands, you change them all, you have machines. This is normal for you, right?
This is what's happening in Drift Masters now with Velino.
Really?
With Velino.
Oh, wow.
So this is actually...
Oh, this is a completely unplanned sponsor plug. Then you guys are sponsored by them?
Yeah, it's going to be, it's not a control tire, but it's a tire that is going to be provided at a discount rate for all the drivers to even the playing field, and also help with the logistics of crossing so many borders of customs with the tires, so it helps. So it's never happened before in European drifting. It's about to happen in like 2 or 3 weeks time, so I'll probably be standing here going, oh God, this is a lot of...
Wait, are y'all running, this is completely unscripted by the way, are you guys running the C's or the R's or what?
Oh, the or, like the proper...
Okay, the crazy ones,
yeah.
okay. All right, skipping forward to logistics. Dave came in from overseas. He was in Abu Dhabi, flew straight in to New Jersey and helped us with announcing. I wanted this to be super different than normal American drifting events. Normal American drifting events are a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
A lot of changing tires, a lot of waiting for announcers, a lot of waiting for judges, a lot of waiting for logistics. We tried to make this as fast-paced as, you know what I mean? Like so fast
It was so fast I couldn't even keep up with what was happening.
Yeah. Have you ever been to a more fast-paced drift event than that?
No, that was almost like...
too fast?
Too fast, too furious.
ADD?
Yeah, I was trying to get results from one battle while the next was coming into the first corner. I was speaking like so fast to try and get through it, but it kept me on my toes, which I'm sure kept the audience on their toes. It moved a lot. There was a lot of different things happening. I really liked the format. I think it was just different, and it was relaxed, and because it's not so serious, to a certain extent corporate, you can have fun, you can be loose with it, you can make fun of people, you can, and everyone knows it's all a bit of tongue-in-cheek, it's a bit of fun. So I had a blast with it, and my voice is definitely gone from 4 hours of screaming. But and it was weird for me because I've never announced to a US crowd before. You hope it translates, the jokes translate, that stuff, but it seemed to go really
Could they
well.
understand you?
Yes, I slowed my voice down as always for my trips abroad.
Yeah.
In Ireland, I'll speak a lot faster than I do here, but it was really good fun. I enjoyed it, and I think it was something different for everybody.
Some context for the audience, we had the LZ party at Englishtown here yesterday. It was a kickoff to Drift Week. It was a kickoff to that Adam LZ party theme. Huge crowd, probably 7,000 people. I don't have a final gate count, but it was big.
Nuts.
It was uncontrollably large how many people we had here. It was organized chaos, but it worked really well. We did paid ride-alongs for the drivers and spectators to interact and to get on the track. We had Phil just packed the bleachers, both sides basically. Yeah. People everywhere, lots of cool stuff like authentic D1 cars in the car show. So what I'm gonna ask you is, and you're seeing all the logistics of how, I mean, you know the back end. Yeah. You know how hard it is, like we had to 18-wheeler in gear to make everything work. And that's very strange for me.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't a low-key event.
No, we have 4 tire changer machines probably. We have all these different drivers. What do you think about it? Because you're someone that I think has had issues in the past with how y'all run comps, like maybe the drivers didn't feel appreciated at some point. I remember y'all had some of those issues. Yeah. Now you're doing the exact opposite thing where people are probably cutting each other's throats to get into Drift Masters. It's so cool.
Yes, that's true.
You know what I mean? So like you're up and down doing crazy stuff.
For some reason
and you throw some of the premier events in the world, so keep going.
Yeah, I'm in an unusual position where I run some of the, as you said, the premier ones like Drift Masters, the highest level, and I also run bashes, which are the lowest level of, say, seriousness. It's all about having fun.
Drift Week 5 would like to thank these amazing sponsors, including BC Racing Custom Coilovers that have been with us from the beginning, the most supportive coilover company in the United States, ECU Master USA, who is also on this trip and has been supporting these trips from the beginning, NK Wheels, who we absolutely love, and always I run RPF1, so thank you guys. Drift HQ, that brings the support van. We could not do this without you guys. Vapetasia, who is not only on this trip driving with us, but also supporting the trip. A new sponsor, Heatwave Visuals. They support us with awesome eye protection and make rad stuff, including the beanie I'm wearing in these videos. And WhatMonstersDo.com, who makes great content. They support Lone Star Drift. They support our Japan content. You can go and use the Ebisu discount code on their website for a percentage off. Let's get back to the content.
So I used to think it was like you're one way or the other, and then I sort of realized that I think people are either one way or the other. But I also think that the guys who are very good drivers also want events they can go in their car and just relax and have fun and enjoy it and do fun stuff like 360s and running walls and drifting with their friends, because they build these crazy cars. And if it's just for competition, it's almost like the car is a tool to win rather than a tool for fun. And I think that's what I saw yesterday, was everyone was having fun in a car. That was essentially like, we all made drifting very serious over the last 20 years, but it's not really a serious thing when you break it down.
Some people make it serious.
No, but you know what I mean? It's power sliding a car. I mean, you can take anything and make it serious. I'm sure there's people who play Minecraft professionally that is very serious. But at the core, it's fun. And I think it appeals to a lot of people when it is fun. And I think when you look at it yesterday, you have the YouTube celebrity guys against the grassroots guys, that hero up against the kind of guy who's watching every week online. And you got pro drivers like Ryan Turk thrown in the middle of a 4-car train with 3 guys he has no idea who they are. It's entertaining to watch, and maybe entertainment is the point. Is that the point of drifting? Probably where it started, what it's all about.
I think there's a different side to it, because most of my events I've always said that I err on the side of making the drivers happy and entertained, and screw the spectators. The spectators are just there, they're not paying the bills, they're not spending thousands of dollars to be there like the drivers. I always thought I should always focus on the drivers. However, that's limiting, because the drivers really want to perform in front of huge crowds.
This is where
and
I
all that kind of stuff. So then you scale it that way, and then the drivers want to be cut in for money or huge prizes and things like that. And like, it just keeps becoming a larger and larger money monster. If you know what I'm saying. And I'm always trying to figure out what I'm gonna do to make the crowd happy, to make the drivers happy, to make everybody happy, the sponsors. And it's a tightrope walk. And I think this, because of Adam effortlessly gets people here, and because we can just do our own thing and perform, and it doesn't have to be such a serious endeavor. I mean, we had almost as many people here as Formula D, but with almost none of the effort of hosting the logistics of bringing drivers from, we did bring drivers around the world and cars from around the world, but you know what I mean? Like, we didn't have to do it seriously.
I think it's a very different thing. And I think there's no right and wrong. I think that's the one thing that drifting has taught me over the last 10 years, is there's no right and wrong way to do it. I mean, I think it's like anything. You've got, Olympic wrestling, you've got professional wrestling, you've got, some people like it, some people say that's fake, they like the Olympic stuff. I think there's a place for competition drifting. I think all drivers deep down want to see where they stack up in that, but then at the same time, they don't want to do that all the time, because that drains you. Because every day is just about win or lose. Whereas to come and sign autographs, sell t-shirts, do pasture ride-alongs, to feel, and I think pasture ride-alongs for pro drivers are something they don't get a lot of when they get to that level, and they forget how awesome it is what they're doing until they see somebody else react to it and then scream in the car or whatever, and they go, oh, this is actually a really cool thing. I've got to remind myself this is why I got into this. So I think that what I saw yesterday was a fun event. It was almost like a monster truck show. Like, it's not really serious. It's about having fun. The crowd judges everything. They're interactive. There's definitely a place for that. I think now that you've got so many I would say online presences that are almost as big as any professional drifter, if not way bigger than every professional drifter now, they can come together to do something, rather than it would be strange for them to come together in any other way than have a fun event or be organized to do so. They wouldn't come together if it wasn't organized to do so. So I enjoyed it. For me, even announcing it was totally different. Again, we were sort of making it up as we went along, which would never happen.
No, it was super planned.
It would never happen in Drift Masters. I mean, I would do, I was just saying to Josh, who's with me, I was like, in Drift Masters, I would do 3 rehearsals before the intro.
Really?
3 representals, yeah, before we start the show, and then we would do a whole...
You mean of just you talking, or the actual cars on track doing everything?
No. Just me talking, the intro to the show, how every presenter's going to work. Yesterday, I was like, there's a microphone.
What's a rehearsal?
Something's going to happen for 4 hours. Whatever happens, you talk about it. I was on my toes. There was good adrenaline to that. At some point, I was like, when does it start? When does it end? What's happening? So I enjoyed that part of it, having fun with the audience, and even saying to the audience, we don't know what's going to happen. and they liked it because usually it's so strict and so scheduled. So I think there's a place for both. I think both work really well. I think Formula Drift and do what they do, but this is like an anti thing of like it's the opposite, and I think that's not a bad thing. More drifting is more good for everybody, and I think that yesterday I saw what I never thought would exist is a non-competitive event create that much buzz.
Yeah.
Which I've never seen before.
I think it's Adam, obviously.
It's Adam, but it's also
because I can bring
else.
out like up to 1,500 people on my own through my own marketing.
Yeah.
Without paying for it and stuff, you know, just like organically. He can bring out such a large number of people that it gets a vibe and a buzz and the energy and, you know, everything, and you fill a place up and it feels so different.
But also you got to remember that he brings those people here, and then other drivers perform in front of that audience, then they build their audience in the back. So he's actually creating other stars, which he's done through his own channels. And it's been like that in drifting, hasn't it? When you look back to D1, there was the guys at the top, and they were the stars, and then all of a sudden they went to the US and then created their stars, and then went to Europe and created stars. So I think it's another cycle of that. It's just a different way. It's not a competitive way of doing it. It's almost like a personality-driven way of doing it. But I think Adam brings a spotlight to all these up-and-comers, and those guys in streetcars here last night getting cheers from the crowd. They've probably never been in front of 20 people.
Yeah.
And that's like, they'll remember that for the rest of their lives. So it's creating moments like that for the ordinary guy. I do think the nice part is when it's a fun event, you take away the competitiveness of the machinery.
Everybody was a winner.
And everyone wins. And also you're you're almost taking the cover off and saying, it doesn't really matter who wins this, it's just a bit of fun. So nobody has to go for like, they're not all trying to kill each other on track with like smashing doors and putting the lowest tire pressure on and breaking all the gearboxes trying to win. So that was nice to see. But it's a different vibe. I think it's for us who does both the competitive side and the lifestyle side, it's very good for the lifestyle side to have some structure as well of events that everyone can come together, meet, network, talk to their heroes. I mean, the line for some of these guys signing autographs last night, like it was raining really heavy, and there was kids standing there for hours, and I was like, this is rock star stuff. This is rock star stuff. Those guys pushing over fences to try and get autographs on their steering wheels. I'm like, this has never happened before in drifting, even at the top level. So good to see. I enjoyed it. I was a bit wild, but I enjoyed it. I was like, it's nice to see it going in another new direction.
What can I do better? Because I'm just doing the logistics and the hosting. Obviously, Adam is another layer on top of that. I'm not going to be the promoter, you know what I mean, like the person creating all that. But what can I do as a logistics side, trying to like, you see all the work we're doing, bringing out tires, bringing out the drivers, bringing out the fans, making, you know, the flow of the fans, bringing you out to announce, you know, all the little things, we're trying to put all the keys in there. What else can I do that was missing?
I think you had all the pieces. I think you had to do it to know what you needed to do better. Because it's very hard to know what that was going to be. I definitely think a little more structure to the show because it's a lot of people. Like 6,000 people, 7,000, 8,000, whatever there was there. You can't disrespect that and say, it's great they're here, but if they're going to pay their money to come again, I need to give them a good show. I think we had a good show last night, but we could add a little bit more to that if we, again.
What could we have done?
We probably could have done a little bit more face-to-face with the drivers. So, I mean, if you came to see Adam LZ and you didn't get a chance to meet him, you could see him on the track, you could actually get out of the car, you could talk to him.
Yeah.
It was almost like we were kind of presenting a practice runs rather than battles. We could have done a little bit more build-up on the sort of head-to-heads.
That's a good point.
We could have made it a bit more.
An opening ceremony where they all get announced and everything.
Introduce whoever they are. You know, have Adam LZ go up against the street guy, so we have a bit of, you know, rivalry there. Have him go against the pro guy. Have, you know, YouTube versus YouTube. We had it, but we didn't really. It was just kind of coming out so fast. Nobody really knew until it had happened. So a little bit more, I think, building a little hype. And a little bit more grudge, and a little bit more smack talk, and that kind of stuff would have just iced up the cake. But even at that, everything else went really smooth. I mean, like the 360 comps, I mean, what I liked about it yesterday, I was like, we talked about 360, I think the freestyle element, I mean, I was in the Middle East a week ago, they love this stuff, but just giving someone a minute to go out and just do whatever they want to try and impress the crowd and just see what happens is like the unpredictable nature of it. It's like an entertaining thing. Monster trucks do it, you know, like they do this like minute of do whatever you want. I'm not sure if that's going to hold up at every arena or circuit if they go mental like that, but it was, I think little bits like that would improve it. I think almost was a beast that was out of control at times. Like there was so many people, so much stuff. I was like, now you know what it is, you can really nail it for the next time, I think.
Yeah. I'm someone that kind of freestyles my events as a host.
For sure.
I get people there. So I had everything down on the schedule.
Yeah.
And I had a concept of what I wanted to do. But oftentimes, I'm sure you have this problem too. Well, no, you probably seem super type A and have everything planned. But like you're on the ground and you're trying to do something and you have to like, you know, flow with it anyways and change so much. I know that's going to happen. So I don't freak out too much and have everything nailed down, because I know drifters are like herding cats,
Yeah.
you know, and it's a disaster. So I play it by ear a lot of the time. And in my brain, I know all the different things I could do. And you know, you didn't see me down there, but like we had 35 cars, half of them shouldn't have been in the show.
Yeah.
I let them do their last ride along, and I was like, yo, this is your 1 lap, get back to grid, or pits, you come back out at 8. And I just communicated to everyone as we did that very quickly, because even when I did it in the driver's meeting and told people, I knew they weren't listening properly.
Yeah.
But like they'll listen to me face to face. You know, so like I'm going through and doing all that, but at obviously a Drift Master show that absolutely wouldn't work.
I don't think it's an organizational thing. I think the organization is dead on. I think like yesterday everything happened as it was supposed to happen. Everything you said happened. It wasn't that. It's like, I don't think you or I would have expected that level of interaction from the crowd, that much hype, that much people. So you almost have to go, right, well, now it's a real thing.
Yeah.
We need to kind of make it a little bit more
opening ceremony for the YouTube crew, lots of little things like that.
Little showy bits, just to kind of break it up, because as you said, one of the things that drifting is you don't want it just to be continuously the same thing for a very long time, because people get a little bored by that.
Yeah.
So having a story, humanizing the drivers, always works quite well. You know, I think that's, if you look at any sport like Formula One, nobody cared about Formula One. Then they made a documentary that was basically all about, it wasn't that much racing, and it was all about the personalities. And then you've also got to remember that at a Formula Drift event, everyone's there to see the best drivers drift. Here, they're here for the personalities. So the crowd want to see them. They want to hear from the personalities that they came to see.
Yeah.
So I think that was the only thing, but that's not an organizational thing, because at the end of the day, how would you know there was going to be that many people there? It might have just been like, let's go drive and have some fun, and people might like wash in and wash out of the bleachers and say, oh, whatever. They were there for like 5 hours straight. I was like watching the same crew of people sitting there like, having a great time. I was like, wow, we could really do some great things.
Do you think the event should have been shorter or longer? Or you think it was a proper amount of time?
I think it was perfect.
It was 8 hours.
Oh,
I
mean,
planned
with
it out.
your ride-alongs and with Adam's queue, you could have done it for 4 weeks, and you'd still be trying to get through.
I know, but you'd obviously lose the attention of the people, and they would leave. You got to keep like the hype train going and keep people excited to be there, and then get them out while they're still excited, so that they don't come off that chemical high at the event.
I think always what drift events, or at least competitive events, have a good thing, which is something we could look at, is they have a crescendo, so it always ends at the top with the win. So a build to something maybe at the end, that there's a final overall winner of everything, you know, even if it's a fun and stupid thing, it does build it sort of like a structure, so people don't feel, people won't leave if they feel like it's coming to something, you know, a climax.
Yeah.
Whereas last night, sometimes you're not sure where that climax is coming. So I mean, that's easy.
That's one of those things, by the way. I'm of the opinion, I was trying to get everybody in ride-alongs to take care of the crowd, so I didn't build up to that because I was so worried about the ride-alongs that I was just trying to clear those out because I felt so guilty. You know what I mean? You could see, like, there's no way to make everyone happy.
No.
I think that's a good point. How could I have done it where we were building it up and finishing the ride-alongs? I don't know, because if you put somebody in a car and they ride along with someone, that's insane to them. It, like,
well, for me,
people are telling me that's the most exciting thing I've ever done in my life.
What would probably be easier is to do a longer stint of ride-alongs.
Yeah.
So you get through as many people as you can, and then you just cut, and then you concentrate on just making that last 2 hours a blaze of a show for 2 hours, that everybody's pumped, they leave on a high, and everyone's home. And I think that's probably easier, because all the drivers get their driving done and their practice done while they're doing the ride-alongs, and then they're ready for the show to do whatever they need to do.
All right, I have another question for you, since
Funny
it's
how
a
we're
logistics
discussing this on a YouTube video. Like, this is how organizers talk in real life.
Yeah. So the reason why we picked this place is because it has bleachers here, and bleachers are insanely expensive to put up. It's the same reason Formula D comes here, and why it's such a simplistic track that makes no sense from the outside. You're like, why don't you go to a world-class facility with all this race car stuff? Well, because the bleachers aren't so close that you can touch the cars and get hit by things. Same thing with NASCAR. So this is a very unique perspective of, like, it's not a great drift track from the perspective of, like, the road course over there is a better drift track. Yes, but this gets everyone so close and so hyped, and it's so good from that perspective.
I've had these arguments many times. We've run events. Within 1 week, I remember a couple of years ago, we ran an event in Hockenheim, which is a Formula One circuit in Germany, for Drift Masters. And a week after, we ran a very similar event to this on a dock in Ireland.
That dock event's so cool looking.
It's the same track, except it's probably a little bit smaller, and same bleachers, everything. and the atmosphere was a million times better at the docks because people are so close to the action. They can see the cars. When you're on a Formula 1 circuit or any of these big circuits, you're not designed to be close to the cars because if you are, you're just going to get hit by a car at 150 miles an hour.
But that's my point, is the F1 track had massive amounts of like investment in the asphalt to get it perfect, the corners, the radiuses, the design of everything. And then the dock obviously didn't have any of that. All you did was pile the people on top of it, like here, and you come up with a completely different energy and vibe and everything, and everything's amazing. So I was gonna say there's a bunch of inherent problems logistically, such as the track is a figure 8, which means you can't hot lap it and keep cars going around continuously, which means on a normal Lone Star drift track, you can get 10 cars on for 5 laps and they continuously drive and you keep injecting cars on track and you're non-stop action. And you can get 10 to 20 times the laps per driver on at least. But this, you're super limited by the layout. And I was gonna say, so there's a bunch of inherent problems with it. And I was thinking about doing ride-alongs over here in this track, but then somebody could wander past the barriers, if you know what I mean, and get hurt. How do you come up at your own events of making the best show possible, and where do you err? Like, screw the spectators, screw the drivers, screw the ride-along, like, where do you give up, and what is the most important thing at your events? Especially when you do video live streams for Red Bull, obviously that's the top tier thing. That's the most important. Everything stacks below that. So like, what kind of decisions do you have problems with, and you know what I mean? Teach me.
Well, I think
my free class, because I put them on the spot.
For me, and I'm not the biggest expert in the world, but what I found is that it's compromise, and it's also about, as you said, goals. Because if you're a top level driver, you're not coming to an event for track time. You're not coming to an event for anything other than being in the biggest show in the spotlight. I mean, I've always talked about sports. I mean, Usain Bolt trains a lot and then he runs for what, 10, 15 seconds. So it's about that small amount of time you're in the spotlight. For an event like this, what could make sense is the split of tracks, because you can have your street guys still drift all day if they want, and you can have the top guys who, to be honest, as much as they want to drive their cars, they're looking at building profile. They're the ones that they know this is what they want. They want the bleachers full. So I think the guys that are focused on a show, I mean, put it this way, you can't have it both ways. You can't drift all day and have a big crowd. It doesn't work that way. You either have one or the other. So if you have a drift week like this, I think the right balance is you focus on the show for this, because the guys are going to get in front of an audience that they'll never get in front of again, even if it's not for a million laps. From the audience point of view, you're never going to be able to put everybody in a car. No matter where you go or what event you're at, it's not possible. So maybe a pre-booking system before the event or something, so that you know how many people and how much time you can go through. Because what happens with a lot of these open lines is, say you're queuing at the back, by the time you get to the front, you've done 2 hours and you don't get a spin.
Oh, I know. That's why I'm afraid of disappointing people.
You'd rather somebody at the start say, it's not going to happen, buddy. You know, go watch the event, because you're missing the event to do that. So a little pre-booking can work. And people might be fine with that, or a slot or whatever. They do this at a lot of different theme parks. Like, you know that it's going to be 3-hour wait, at no point, not going to get it. But these are all problems you didn't know you had until yesterday. So it's not like you could have preempted any of yesterday. And I didn't preempt it, or anything to do with it. But I mean,
I could have. We do a lot of ride-along events, but like this just scaled a little bit larger than we normally deal with.
People on ride-alongs, like that's 7,000 minutes at least.
Well, we do that kind of stuff at COTA, but we have a hot lap track, so we can finish. So yesterday, I did an event here and at Texas Motor Speedway, and we did at least 2,000 ride-alongs at Texas Motor Speedway at the same time as we were doing it here. But because it's a hot lap track and everything else, we can do it. We had the intrinsic problem of having a hold up in a figure 8 track, and we just couldn't clear the crowd. So the event we did yesterday was larger than this. I think there was like 9,000 to 10,000 spectators, because it was that Fast and Furious Fuel Fest thing. So it was bigger than this, but obviously better organized. And then the track layout was a different layout, which allowed 5 cars on track at once, you know, and continually moving, so they didn't ever have to stop to get back.
Well, there's no perfect place. No perfect way. I mean, I think the idea is that you try and keep a balance between the spectator. I mean, if you're building a show, the spectator is the most important thing.
So I should have known about, we wouldn't have cleared the line. But I was going to say, we could have cleared that line, because like we talked about fielding at the last COTA demo we did, Circuit of America. He did more than 250 laps with spectators just by himself. And we had a bunch of people trying to do those numbers. So 5 people clear more than 1,000 people. You know what I mean? So we're just,
that's a lot.
And we had 40 people doing that. You know, so like we were able to clear probably 4,000 rides at COTA or something like that. And so we could have cleared it here, because we're used to doing big events. I'm just not used to having such a holdup on track, and I knew it in advance, and how do you say? I just screwed up by not stopping the line like you said, or having pre-booking,
Yeah,
because
but I
I'm
mean,
used to playing everything by ear.
And again, it's
I've done more than 250 events, by the way, and you know how it is? You're just like, I can do that. You're just like, I can figure it all out on
no matter,
location.
you can talk and be an expert all you want. You'll still have things happen that you have no idea. And I mean, for me, a lot of the events, you know, you have issues that you don't foresee. But when you do it the second time, that's your fault. That's what I would say. First time, you're never at fault, because some of the stuff.
The problem is we host events at so many different places.
That's the problem. Well, you don't know until if you
Every place is different.
If you started today, and you knew everything you knew yesterday, it would be a different. It would probably be mostly the same, like 90%, because it went really well. But then 10% you just tweak, and that's all you're ever doing is tweaking it a little bit every year to go. Oh well, remember that was an issue. We'll change that. We might change this, but you don't know that until you get the experience. I mean, I did 3 of those events on the docks, and like the third one was obviously the best because I'd figured out all the stupid problems from the other 2. So it takes experience and it takes time. I just think, from my perspective, take all the positives from it, that I don't think anybody came to this event yesterday, wasn't entertained, had a good time, whether they were a driver, whether they were a spectator, a trader, anybody. Like, even from a sponsor point of view, like coming and seeing your driver in front of that many people, it's great. You know, everything is really good. So I think take all the positives from creating something very quickly, very off the cuff, scarily off the cuff for me at times yesterday, because I was like, this is amazing, we're just making this up as we go along, and everybody here thinks this is all part of the plan. And I was like, I have no idea in 20 minutes what I'm even announcing. But it worked, because I'm like you, I like thinking on my feet, you can make it work. I think even the energy of the crowd built into that, because they didn't want it to be structured, they wanted it to be wild and unpredictable and stuff, so they got that. I loved it. I think there's a lot of potential. That's the one thing I looked at yesterday, a lot of potential in that vibe of an event, because it's fun. You have no drivers going home angry with a judging decision, angry with why they got eliminated. Oh, my qualifying score should have been higher, blah, blah, blah. Like,
I 100% agree with that. That's the bane of my existence, is people being like, if you host a competition, you're bound to have a bunch of people mad that they got knocked out.
Yeah, and 60 people behind them gassing them up that the judges are against them and this, that, and the other, which is always nonsense. But at the end of the day, friends of drivers always make them feel better by telling them they're great.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with this, everyone was great, and there was nobody bad. So like, that's what I started running my Drift Games Bash events in Ireland. You know, I remember I would go very similar. I was probably looking at your stuff, going, "Hold on a minute, let's try something like what you do." We did it, and I would come to an event. I would run it for 7 days, and the logistics and craziness, and even whether you make money, lose money, whatever, so much stress. And at the end of the event, when you've finished and you've succeeded, you're listening to 3 hours of complaints from drivers and decisions and blah, blah, blah. And your brain is just like, I don't care anymore. Then you come to a bash event. You let everybody just go loose. Everybody runs the event perfectly. It's super organized what we do with Club Loose in Ireland and stuff. And then I drive my car, I have fun, and then at the end of the event, everyone says, I had the best time ever. And you're going, well, this is much easier. I didn't even really do much there. Like, I set it up, I let it move, but that's why I much prefer those events. I'm sure you're the same. I like the competitive events at the top level because the stress and stuff is quite addictive sometimes, but I think for events like this, as a counter for my drift, and then you've got this kind of LZ party thing, it's like a counter of both. And I like the fact that there's options. You know, people have a choice to aim for this event for the year, or aim for this one, or whatever, and there's no bad or good or bad. But I think definitely yesterday I felt something different, that I was like, there's no seriousness to this, and everybody's having a good time, and the crowd are no less interested. You know what I mean? Like, they're parking cars in a bunch of tires. You didn't even have a measuring tape. I wasn't even sure how someone won it. But,
there was no winner.
Yeah, but I think I just gave it to Jimmy Oakes because people liked him hitting all of them. But I was like, they're just as excited as if it was the semi-final of a drift event competitively. So it shows that entertainment is always the number one.
How long did it take for you to figure out that it wasn't a real comp?
No, I said it to Chris, who works here. I was like, do we measure them? He's like, nah, we don't. Aaron said, just whatever. And I was like, just
Chris is like, let's measure. I'm like, we're going too fast.
I think he said, Luke Fink usually wins this, so it's fine. I was like, it's a pretty big statement now. So I just did it off the crowd, whoever thought was best. Yeah. And I think they just, and the thing is, when we went to the battles, what was really bizarre to me was how clued in the crowd were. Because when we did the battle thing of like who won versus, they were basically judging it as you would judge it, like in a competition.
Really?
Someone spun, he gets less cheers, the other guy gets the more cheers. I thought it would just be a popularity contest, but they were like cheering for the guy they thought won.
That's awesome.
Very clued in audience, so they knew what they were looking at.
That was something too that, as you throw a lot of events, there's almost no grassroots events I've ever been to where you can really hear the cheers like that and like feed the energy. Like the drivers could hear it and everything. So I was going to say, that's really cool feedback for the drivers and everything.
I mean,
is it like that at the Driftmaster stuff where the crowd's so loud they can get the energy?
Sometimes. I mean, we have, don't get me wrong, Drift Masters can be unusual at times because sometimes I'll announce to the live stream or to the broadcast, as we call it now, not live stream, and there's a local commentator and he's in a different language 5 out of the 6 rounds. So I have no idea what he's saying or what he's doing. And then there'll be crowd cheering at times and I don't know what. Sometimes they'll cheer and I go, what are they cheering? I don't know. And then I do events in the Middle East and the announcer also isn't speaking English. So I hear them cheer, but I don't know what for.
I didn't even think about that. So you're actually announcing to us online and there's another announcer announcing to the crowd and we don't realize it online.
Yes.
That's so cool how you can have such a different experience and control that experience so well. Well, you know what I mean? I didn't even know. I mean, it makes sense you're in Oman or something.
Yeah, like you'll have heard, say, Ian, the famous one is Ian and I commentating on Conor Shannon and James Dean in the stadium. That video did.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Right? We're in a small little room. Can't hear anything.
Wow.
So we're screaming, and it's just the 2 of us in a room.
I didn't even think about that.
The audience can't hear us. Nobody can hear us.
Wow.
So that's really weird sometimes.
Yeah.
Because we're just in a little box.
2 dudes shouting.
And the best thing is, there's always like a bunch of media like guys in another room, and you just see their heads like, these guys shouting at. And but we've learned to do it.
That's crazy.
And we're fans, so we react as fans. But yeah.
Nobody in America realizes that, by the way. That's one of those behind the scenes things that you just blew my mind on.
So the commentator is in Polish, whoever's commentating on that or announcing.
No, I mean, all makes sense when you say it, but I'm just I never put 2 and 2 together.
We'll hear cheers, but we have no idea what he's saying. We can't hear him. So
that's crazy.
He's just doing his own thing. And he's basing it off the same graphics, so he's watching.
So I was thinking that you were running that event as well. I guess you can't delay that. But I was going to say, how much of the event are you running at that point, or are you just an announcer?
Once I go announcing, it's done. It's left in the hands of everybody else.
Okay.
So I'm setting it up, and then I step away.
How did you end up being the announcer and the logistics person?
Oh, that was because in Ireland, I was the announcer first, and then I went and did, because the track manager back before we did live stream, would stand beside me while I'm announcing, and I would say to my co-announcer like, oh, what do you think of James Dean there? And then I would just go, and he would just talk for 20 minutes, and I would have a conversation because I was right beside the track manager. But it was always the best way of selling a championship was to be the announcer. So if it was my championship and I was putting in my money and trying to make it work, the easiest way of knowing that that's going to be a success from a brand perspective and mention all the sponsors and all that stuff was doing it yourself. So I did it myself. So then I went to Drift Masters. Initially, as they wanted me to be an announcer, I did one event. I can't even remember now. Maybe I did one event or with a Polish guy as a English commentary version of Drift Masters because it never had English commentary. And then I ended up coming in and doing vice president and all the other stuff. But I'm still the announcer for that championship. So I'll be in all the build-up. So like, as you know, with Drift Championships, they're running for like 12 days a year. So the other part of that job is to make sure those 12 days work and everyone's where they need to be. But once we go live, I'm out. Everyone else handles everything else. So I have another guy that will be in the truck as a producer and a director, and all those guys will just figure all that out. Most of the time.
I'm so bad at all this stuff. My mind's being blown and I'm like...
Unless there's a major problem, like say we had a problem in Drift Masters where the track flooded and then no one knew what to do, and then I would basically say to the co-commentator, well, look at that leaderboard. I know the leaderboard's going to take like 20 minutes to go through, so he would just talk and I would go and have a discussion with the track manager or whatever, and I have to be very decisive because I don't have time. I just go this, and then we move on. But yeah, that's interesting. A lot of people don't realize that of the 12 probably competitive events I'll run this in the year, one of them will be in English, I would say. Like that my voice will actually come out to the crowd. But that's weird, because I'm the voice of Drift Masters, but if you ever went to a Drift Masters live event, you would never hear me from start to finish.
This is a weird event host problem. How the hell do you deal with the stress of doing 2 jobs like that and doing, like, really getting into something
Good people.
Okay, really?
People. Everything's
so you're not stressed out at the events. You're just like, I'm back. I'm not worrying about anything. I'm just announcing.
The guys that make the decisions at the event are good, if not better than me at doing that from that point on. They're just they're guys that are experienced. They know what they're doing. I have 100% trust in them.
Yeah.
They'll make the right call.
Because I'm at the events and like I have like staff that does grid and runs the comp and does all these things, and they'll start to slow down and I'm on the radio. I'm like, hurry the F up. Like, get the next lap going. Like the crowd is literally walking away. You know, like get the next car online. You're like, you know, I'm sitting there.
Well, what's actually, it's a gift and a curse, but when Red Bull TV, they don't want downtime.
Yeah.
They want to show.
So they push even harder than you probably would.
Yeah, they're pushing it harder than anybody to make sure. So for example, they'll limit the amount of drivers on a grid for qualifying because it's too long or whatever. Why it's difficult to get into Drift Masters is simply time and run time on TV. And they'll also want it to be fast all the time. So that's why the 5-minute rule was dropped from Drift Masters. Like, there's none of that because they're like, well, what are we going to do for 5 minutes on TV when this guy is just, sitting in the pits?
So what do they do? If they add a tires, they're just out?
It's gone.
I love that rule.
Literally just gone.
I love that
We've had
rule.
guys who have oil leaks on the start line, gone, see it.
Dang.
It's harsh. But
yeah, but it's again, we were talking about earlier, if you're erring on the side of like the crowd, you have to make those choices.
And to be honest,
and you start to lose the driver thing.
And it's harsh, but once it becomes normal, every driver knows my car needs to be 100%, it needs to be on the line. Because you know what happens, like you've done competitions, drivers will call 5-minute rules just for fun. They think it's funny. Yeah, I'll just go like stand around and have a drink. So and we could never stop that. And then when Drift Masters just said no, it just became normal. And eventually, don't get me wrong, there's some heartbreaking moments where someone will line up to the start line, do a burnout. It happened to Connor Shannon, did a burnout and his exhaust hanger broke and his exhaust hung down and he couldn't do the run. So he's out of the competition. So it's very harsh at times. But then other times, the guy is not going to fix the car in 5 minutes and there's no point waiting. And they always call the 5-minute rule and you're like the car is written off, the chassis.
And if you have 20 drivers, that could be, I don't know the math, 100 minutes or something.
It's 2 hours a weekend, what we calculated on 5-minute rules, if you did a Pro-Am and a Pro. So it cuts it down quite a bit. And then it keeps it on schedule and you can move through a lot more pace, So, hey, look, it's all relative. Another person would say that's a terrible idea. And I understand that everyone has their own opinions. Drifting is great for opinions. But it is a fast show. It is quite explosive because it's fast. And there's no mercy given to the drivers. But then that's the opposite of, say, how you would approach an event where the drivers are the first and most important part. Drift Masters, it's almost like we're building this incredible stage for you. You have to be on it. And if you're not on it, then you shouldn't be here.
That's a good point.
Which is a strange way of looking at it. Don't get me wrong, a lot of drivers will quit because that is very harsh. You could travel for 3 days, 4 days, do 2 laps and go home.
Were you doing any Drift Master stuff in Russia or anything with the RDS series or anything like that?
No, we don't work with RDS. We know the guys from RDS, but the drivers obviously from Ireland were competing on contractual stuff for Russia, but they've obviously chosen morally not to do it anymore.
Well, would they even be allowed to get in?
I don't think that's even the issue. I think the issue is that they just morally don't want to be involved.
Okay.
It's a tough time.
So did it affect you guys or anything?
We got a lot of the big drivers back fully committed to Drift Masters that were probably on bigger contracts in RDS.
Oh,
but
so it's good for you guys?
There's no good in that war.
But it was beneficial to you guys that you got drivers back, or like...
I think we would have only missed one driver.
Oh, James Dean?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's good to have James back. I mean, James would have tried to do what he would have done is a full RDS and a select few Drift Masters. But now we'll obviously do a full Drift Masters. But look, I mean, James has completed Drift Masters. It's all about new challenges for him.
I was gonna say, why would he go do RDS if Drift Masters has such a better, like, Red Bull media package? It was just because someone was signing him a check? But
is that why everyone goes everywhere in sport?
Well, how does RDS get him a bigger check signed if you guys have such better media?
Nobody knows. I'm not going to say anything on camera about RDS, but I would say that let's just be honest.
Oh, maybe this is already something you've already thought about. Sorry.
I'm just saying
this is something I'm just like right now thinking like, why would they do that?
Because RDS, it's paid a lot of drivers to come and drive professionally, so not appearance fees. They were giving them salaries per year to drive in the championship, which is like, and they would have full teams that would pay 3 drivers' salaries.
Wow.
Which is a massive progression for the sport. Does it make financial sense to whoever? Maybe it does to them, I don't know.
Was it just some Russian oligarch?
A lot of oil companies, yeah.
Oil companies, just random people like...
And I'm not sure how their tax system works. Again, I have no idea, so I'm not even going to speculate, but it was a great deal for those drivers who had been driving for maybe 10, 15 years to earn a guaranteed career of salary from this. Now, the minute it all happens, and there's 2 drivers in Ireland in question, 3 actually, who would have been on full-time pay, now that's gone. So you take two years of COVID, and you go straight into a war. Like, that's it's tough on those guys, Like,
sounds
really
like
tough.
normal Irish problems.
No, it's not, because nothing's happening in Ireland.
Oh, no, I just mean like y'all have a tough history.
China and
like
Russia,
it's always something.
China and Russia ruined everything in drifting. But like we have no, these guys they're at the top of their game. So they're at a decision-making point now. It's great to be in this championship, great to be in that championship, but it has to be making money, it has to be making a career for them, or else they need to start thinking about a career. you know, which is what they were doing. So they were doing. It's going to be a weird time now.
It's interesting. You'll have so many opportunities over there that are new too. Like RDS and Drift Masters are fairly new, and like the scope of what they're doing for the drivers. In the United States, it's been pretty stagnant from that perspective.
Yeah, RDS
for
and
a
Drift
while.
Masters also, you know, from the Drift Master side of this, it's good because competition breeds better championships.
Yeah.
So, for example, RDS and Drift Masters competing for drivers, competing for fans, competing for, you know, marketing deals with sponsorships. It's good for everybody. I mean, I like competition because I think you always want to do an event that's better than the other, and you want, you know, pushes everybody. When it's just one championship, who are you comparing yourself to? You know, who's the other option? So, I mean, I feel like we wanted Drift Masters to be the best option for drivers, and I still think it is in terms of media packages. But again, there's other championships that will have another approach, like it might be contracts with the drivers that are more profitable. So some drivers will go, I'll go to Drift Masters because it's more beneficial for my profile, and then other drivers who already have the profile will say, I need to go now and make some money. So I get both sides of it, and I'm friends with all these guys too. So I know they're thinking. I would never hold it against them, whatever championship they want to go to. But it is, Drift Masters is a better show, and RDS offers more money, and that's where it is in Europe. If you want to consider Russia in Europe.
Does RDS still exist at the moment? Are they hosting events?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're still doing stuff.
They're still doing stuff, and I'm sure it's difficult for them. I'm not sure what the landscape there is at the moment, but
I couldn't imagine like the logistics of getting tires and like, you know, all those. Oh, you know what? China probably supports them, so like.
Yeah, but they don't even have Instagram and Facebook right now.
Russia?
Yeah. It's all,
Oh, geez, that'd be so difficult for everything. I'm like.
I mean,
contractually obligated to post on Instagram, and you can't. You're just like, what a weird
Instagram
world.
is now gone. But yeah, I think that there's a weird world there at the moment, and obviously we have some events in Drift Masters that are in Poland, Latvia, very close to that whole conflict. So we'll see how that plays out for the rest of the year. It's an unfortunate situation for everybody because it made the price of fuel, and now the price of shipping, and now you put in drifting. It's like a super expensive sport now in Europe. Like if you look at the price of fuel alone, to even just put in your truck or van to drive across Europe is
Do you
insane.
think that's going to kill drifting, or you think that you're above the fray?
I think people have. The only reason I think it's not an issue is because people haven't done much drifting in the last 2 years because of COVID.
Okay.
But if it was to continue at these prices, I can't see it making sense financially for anyone to drift.
Wow.
I mean, tires are going over 100 euro a tire.
Yeah.
And fuel is at the highest it's ever been in the history of fuel.
We have those problems in the United States right now, but drifting, because of like YouTube and everything else, is seeing like a revival. I wouldn't say a revival, but like a continued golden era of all this stuff, and things are moving pretty well. But like these tires are incredibly difficult to get right now. Even at the prices, they're difficult. Like we had to order these 6 months in advance. We had to order these tires basically before Drift Week 4 was over, or else we would not have tires. And I have to get them to earmark these and then warehouse them once they get here and ship them across the country. And like they don't have stock to sell anyone right now. And they're holding these for us, you know.
It's crazy, yeah.
Which is, I had problem with Kenda. We ordered them like that before, and then they sold them, and then we were completely screwed.
Yeah, I mean, look, everything's hard to get now, and everything's too expensive, and it's all a combination of, it's basically a combination of 2 years of a pandemic and a war.
Yeah.
So like, that's as much as can go wrong.
What's
in the
next?
economy, and I'm like, there's not much more left in the tank for everybody if anything else goes wrong after. And a meteorite will hit the earth now in the next 6 months or whatever. But I was like, this is all. And not just a problem for drifting, it's a problem for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's not like drifting is any specifically up or down from this. I think it's just people's natural income is affected. Everything's more expensive, and then if everything's more expensive, people are going to do less.
So is Drift Masters 2022 a healthier series than it was like in 2020? You're like, I don't know.
I don't know, because I mean, I think so. Yeah. No, I would only judge it on. So we did pre-sale tickets for the Irish event, which is in 2 weeks, which is the reason we're not on this full Drift Week, because that's a beast in itself. But that's the highest pre-sale we've ever done in history of drifting.
Okay.
So 3 hours it was sold out.
I was going to say, for the spectators at least, I think that they're
hungry.
Yeah, I was going to say they're super hungry for stuff. Obviously this. Like 2.5
years of no drifting at all, and then all of a sudden you bring the biggest championship in Europe to your front door. Ireland loves drifting.
How many tickets are y'all going to sell for spectators? And do y'all cap it?
It has to be capped at some. Now we're building more grandstands now, but or bleachers, as you guys would say. I think it'll do 8,000 to 10,000 people.
Dang.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
For one piece of the track, but we'll build grandstands. We'll facilitate those people the best we can. We've done close to that before, but what happens a lot with Drift Masters is Ireland used to be the last round. And because Ireland is landlocked, so it's an island, most of the drivers, if they weren't in the championship running or they were whatever, they wouldn't travel to the last round because their car's beat up or blown up or whatever.
I totally understand.
But now it's the first round. Everybody's got to go.
Yeah, they have
so
to.
there's like 32 countries worth of people coming to this event.
Holy cow. How many drivers do y'all have?
65.
Dang. And it's capped at 65, obviously.
65.
How do they get in?
I mean, I could only put in, usually I would, like back in the day, I would have put in like 20 Irish guys as wild cards into the event. I think I put in 3. Like that's all I could put
If
in.
I wanted to drive Drift Masters, what would I do as a foreigner?
It's an application process, and you would have to be assessed on your previous experience. I mean, it's basically down to experience, actually showing that you've competitive level of winning somewhere, and then also you're following your car, your budget, everything that goes with it, so that you're not a guy that'll turn up to the first round and fall apart and not be in for the rest of the season.
So you need to go interview and like look over the dossier of like
Essentially.
probably 200 people?
Way more than that.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was 2,000 applicants this year
What?
for Drift Masters. 2,000.
Well, probably 1,900 of those are just like trash can.
A lot of them are.
I would like to use my Miata, and I would like to use this as a platform to get
No.
all the sponsorship because
I
it's
think
stock.
a lot of it is money. People buy a nice car and think they can go to Drift Masters because they have a nice car.
But are there 2,000 people with comp cars?
In Europe, yes.
What?
Easily.
2,000 comp cars?
Oh, yeah.
I guess Europe's big. I wouldn't think the United States would have 2,000
Europe
real.
also includes Russia, remember, so it's like half of the world.
But real comp cars, like Formula D level comp cars. Or sorry, Drift Masters level
Yeah,
comp
I'd
cars.
say there's probably definitely over 1,000, 1,500 cars like that. And sure, in Ireland there's probably 200.
Wow. I
Comp-
feel like that's
comp
more
cars.
than the United States.
Maybe. Like, I would say in Ireland there's 200 top level comp cars. Like,
What's the population that you're pulling from? 1 billion people? 300 million
oh
people?
God, I don't know. The population of Europe, this is like geography questions. I don't know, maybe, well, in Ireland and the UK there's nearly 100 million people, so they're talking a lot more than that. Maybe 1 billion people. I wouldn't know it, maybe 500 or 600 million. But
Okay.
again,
So like double the size of the United States. I'm just trying to wrap my brain
but
around it.
it's very national. So like if you go to Austria, you just get your Austrian audience. If you go to Germany, you get your German audience. You go to Latvia, whatever. So that's why it's like a tour, you know. The difference is, it's like a rock tour. We come to that country, and every drift fan in that country comes to that event because that's the big one, you know.
No, that makes sense.
Like in Germany, I think it's the only drift event. And we did that one on the island in the mine.
Why aren't y'all bigger then? Why don't y'all have 50,000 fans with Red Bull money and everything? Is there a cap of like...
It's COVID. So for 2 years, nothing happened.
Oh no, I mean, do you think that y'all will get to that scale?
That's the aim.
Like Nitro Circus,
That's the
huge?
aim. That's the aim.
Okay. I was gonna say, it seems like y'all would be so much...
We have a stadium event in Poland in October. Big stadium. Tarmacking the whole thing. Like...
Yeah, because
the
whenever
big
I think and see Drift
And we'll
Masters,
know
I
that.
think of such a big budget. I'm like, why aren't y'all packing this thing with 50,000
I still
people?
think at the end of the day, drifting is still something quite new, and it's still,
Yeah.
to a lot of those countries. I mean, you also got to look at the core audience. Like, say Holland, no drifting in Holland, no drifting really in Germany, no drifting in, like, they don't really have much drifting. So we're a big show in those countries when we come, but Ireland has a lot of drifting, UK has a lot of drifting, but not every country. Poland has a lot of
Do
drifting.
y'all have monster trucks in Europe?
Somewhere, I'm sure.
I was gonna say, have you thought about combining like monster trucks with drift cars or anything like that and trying to pack a big ass place?
We've done a couple of events in the stadiums where we'll do the motocross jump guys. I don't know what you call them, but the guys that do all the stunts and stuff, and it's gone down really well. Again, I think Drift Masters, we always put it with a car show, so car shows always attract quite a lot of people. So we'll do 250 show cars along with Drift Masters in Ireland, and that's kind of enough for people for the weekend. You know, they're happy enough. They're quite clued in, a bit like the fans that were here at the LZ party. It was like, they know what they came to see.
Yeah.
They came to see drifting. They don't need to be shown
fair enough.
sparkly things on side of it. They go, just give me the drifting. I came for the drifting. That's fine.
As someone like myself, just like the car show thing, you're like, should I add this other thing? Should I add this other thing? And for myself, the answer has always been no, because I don't give a crap about stunt bikes or anything else. So I just don't do it.
We've done it.
But then I'm like,
it does work.
what am I not?
I think the car show and the drift stuff works super well.
Yeah.
Because it's like, there's the cool static stuff that you want to see, like you want Instagram photos of.
Yeah.
And then there's the guys shredding on the track. That's all. I'm a car guy. That's what I want. I want the cool stuff. I want the shredding stuff. Anything else, we've done motorbike stuff, we've done stunt stuff, and it goes fine. People give it a clap or a cheer. But I feel if it was there, it wasn't sometimes. I don't think people would have really gone home and said that was the thing. You know, especially when you know your core audience is. I mean, Saddam LZ, you know exactly what they came here to see. Cool builds in the paddock and drifting on the track.
Yep.
That's his channel.
And to buy Adam merch.
Yep, that's pretty much, and that was a cue I was impressed with from the morning till the evening. Those guys that probably arrived, queued for merch and went home and saw nothing.
No
they
way.
were just in that queue
That
for
could have
so
been
long.
true.
Like they were at least an hour or two in that queue, and they were. And to be fair to his team, they were flying through people.
I was like, why don't you just have like 3 times as many people selling merch?
I don't know if they were flying there. I could see it, like they were just throwing stuff at those kids. But it goes to show it has a future. We would explore things like this. I mean, I would say that what we did yesterday was an inspiration on me for what we could add to certain events that I do. Not to steal your ideas.
Yeah, I was gonna say stay off my turf.
But not to stay off your ideas, but to say the idea of having fun events that can be successful. I mean, I think you showed that it's possible.
Yeah. A quick side note on all that. I've known that this would be a huge thing for a long time, and I purposely was trying not to mix business with friends and all these other things, but I keep talking to people like, what's your 5-year game? Like, what are you gonna do to better drifting? What are you gonna do to like get people excited? And I'm afraid that if we don't make more excitement and get people buying more like the new Zs or, manual transmission cars or whatever, if we don't like press the gas pedal on this whole drifting thing, A, it's gonna fizzle out, but also B, like, just like I'm sure it's getting that way in Europe, I'll look on check all manual transmission BMWs in the DFW area, which is like more than 10 million people, and there's like 7 for sale. Yeah. And none of them are anything you even want. We are so limited for manual transmission.
I don't think no matter how much noise we make, it's going to make any difference to the way the tide is going. I mean, especially in Ireland, we have environmentalists in our government now who would rather see there not be one more petrol or diesel car. We're not allowed to buy a new one from 2030. That's it. 2030 is the cutoff. Can't buy a new petrol or diesel car. It has to be electric.
So we either press the gas pedal on this thing or the electric pedal.
But also look at it another way. I'm sure there's massive events where people come in 60s and 50s and 70s hot rods, and those guys.
Yeah, but eventually that's going to die. The boomers are all dead. Harley Davidson's going to be dead because young kids, Zoomers, don't buy Harleys.
No, but there's always a niche audience for things that are outlandish.
Yeah.
And
the problem though is
monster trucks are not a good seller, but people still go watch them.
But I was gonna say that's true. But the problem is I've always been a grassroots drift guy.
Yeah.
And we need those cheap cars. I can't go to Ebisu and not have cheap cars to get through. Like, we're screwed at Ebisu.
I don't think, in my personal opinion, in 5 years, cheap drifting will exist. And I'm unfortunately thinking that because of the level of fuel tires and the chassis and the parts and all that stuff. I think what's going to happen
I don't want to get a new career again.
No, I think what's going to happen is things like this. You're going to take the guys that do it, who will be a lot less than they were before, and people will want to come watch those guys do that.
Yeah.
In probably more.
My problem, though, is all the fans will be fed up and angry that they can't do it, and just screw this and quit.
I'm pretty sure most of the people that go watch Formula 1 don't drive a Formula 1 car.
I can't think of drifting as Formula 1.
But that's
drifting is like the everyman thing.
Yeah, but so is racing. In the 60s, they used to get out of their Formula 1 cars, kiss the girl, have a cigarette, and people would stand at the side of the track and give them a high five when they go by. It progresses. It has to survive.
I've been thinking that maybe we'll have something like late model chassis or something where people now could just buy drift car chassis and assemble them kind of thing.
Oh, well, I mean, in the UK now, they make the old Mark II Escorts and stuff, brand new chassis for rallying. I was thinking, if someone just made an S13 reproduced shell.
Injuku, get on it.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool.
No, I was serious. I was actually talking to the Injuku guys. I'm like, make a chassis. They're just like, you're stupid. And I'm like, make a chassis.
Well, all these Singer Porsches now and stuff, they're all just recreations of old stuff. So
yeah.
Who knows?
The aftermarket's strong enough for S chassis that if someone just made glass and a chassis, we could do it.
Think about it from. Here's the crazy thing, right? I'll leave you on this point, which has nothing to do with what we started talking about. In the UAE, they made a new Patrol, and then all the guys in the UAE said, we don't like this Patrol, we like the old one from 15 years ago. And they remade it brand new. You can buy a brand new 1998 Patrol.
Yeah, that's because they don't have all the emission stuff over there and everything over there. But so they did that 70 series Land Cruiser or whatever that was, and they reprinted those as well. But those don't get to America and all these other countries.
But if an S15 gets to $60,000 or $65,000 in price, which it could do, Nissan must surely be looking at this going, we didn't even sell it for that in the first place. You know what I mean? So I'm maybe we'll just make. Maybe
they did in yesterday's money though.
Yeah.
S chassis was probably $27,000 for the final years of a Kuki in the United States, and an S15 in Japan was probably 35 grand or something.
Yeah,
but in today's money, that's probably literally 60 grand.
Yeah, but if people are still willing to pay it, they'd rather buy a new one. So these guys are making brand new Escorts in UK and selling them. And they don't care about the emission stuff because they're a small company with kit cars, a kit car sale. So you never know, it could go that way. I feel, in my opinion, drifting will always go to one direction, which is people will watch it and not do it as much.
Okay.
And more people will watch it and less people will do it. And
I'm always, my very last thought is as a grassroots events host person, I'm always thinking we have to get to critical excitement levels to keep the tracks open, to keep new tracks getting built, to keep tire manufacturers building tires and selling them to us, and for them to be cheap enough for us to afford.
Sure.
For parts availability such as WiseFab and all this stuff, the only reason all these parts exist is because there was enough people to buy them. And I don't feel like we'll have as much stuff for sale, you know, and accessible if we don't keep it at a critical mass. And then, I mean, we're losing tracks so fast at the moment in Texas.
But how can you fight the tide of the entire world wanting to cut down on emissions, cut down on, like, tire smoke in general is bad, emissions are bad, like all this stuff is coming. And unfortunately, we had the generation of the boom of do what you want, but at the very end,
no, you're right.
We got this thing of, oh, by the way, you can't do any of this now.
We'll just keep it going for as long as possible.
And that's the point. It could be 10 years, it could be 15, it could be 20, it could be 25, it could be 1, but nobody knows when that will happen. So the best thing you can do is full steam it, full gas it, and hope that everything keeps coming and starting of it. Like, if you're talking about events dying and tracks dying, we're here today drifting on a massive track. 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 people were watching people drift yesterday. I don't think today is the time to be worrying about it.
All right. Thank you so much for talking to us. I very rarely get to talk to other event hosts that I want to talk to.
Me too.
There was that catch at the end. Do you get to talk to event hosts very often that you? No. Isn't it so weird that
we're only one at an event? Do you know what I mean?
What?
There's never more than one event organizer at an event.
No. Most event organizers hate each other.
They do, and it's always like I've always been quite like fascinated by people who are always so competitive. I'm like, man, it's all about learning.
Well, I'm always like, people are always freaking out and trying, like, I'm competing with you or whatever. I'm like, man, we do not do the same thing.
No, but like, drivers can talk to 100 drivers at an event and get so much advice, but organizers don't get the same thing. So it's great having, everywhere I go, I try and pick the brains, and you never know, one little thing can spark something you're doing better or worse. And it's all about building the same sport in the first place anyway. I don't know why everyone's so competitive. Like, there's nobody out there that can do it on their own. So it's better to have everybody compete, everybody be trying to be as good as they can be in a healthy way. And then everyone benefits.
Well, thank you so much. Have an amazing time. Thank you for holding the camera, Si. Thank you, YouTube, for watching. Let's go drift. Or pretend to drift after this.
Pretty much.
Let's go.